You know, it's kind of funny because in the description of my YouTube channel, I mentioned being a Persona fan, and yet have never made any Persona content on my channel. That's kind of funny. But, yes, the news that everyone had been anticipating, because just about everyone was saying it was happening except Atlas, was confirmed. Persona 4 Revival, a remake of Persona 4, and considering that Persona 4 is one of my favorite games of all time, I have some thoughts. Mostly that thought being, I don't think I'm gonna pick it up. Because, like, Persona 3, I'll be honest, was much more in need of a remake. For starters, there were a lot of gameplay decisions that were archaic and were kind of unfun to deal with. The fact that you couldn't choose to not date someone, so you either need to 5-time multiple characters in order to get all the social links, or just miss out entirely. That was unfun. Not being able to pick what skills your persona inherits when fusing, that was annoying. And I think that the option to have been able to control your party members would have been nice, even if it wasn't unlocked at the start, just because, especially during the late game, like during the last few boss fights or the few levels of Tartarus remaining, that was pretty unfun on the PS2. But also because there was two entirely separate versions of Persona 2, so it made it hard to really know, which one do you get, Do you get the Persona 3 Portable, which has an entirely second campaign with some new scenes because you're a woman instead of a dude? Or do you go with Persona The Answer and get the main story experience and also not play a PS2 game on a PSP, but also have the sequel to Persona 3, which I think is still canon, of The Answer, and so you can see what your party members do after the events of the game. You don't know which one to pick, and up until very recently, with the limited run games of Persona 3 Portable, the games weren't available on modern consoles. So I can understand why Persona 3 Reload exists. It makes sense, it consolidates and gives you an option to play the story of Persona 3 on a modern console. Now, that's not to say that the game is entirely blameless. There are some things that I don't like personally, like the protagonist being forced to only wield short swords. I think that's kind of lame. I liked how in Fez they could wield any weapon. Also, the voice actors, they did a great job. I wanted to say that out front. All of the voice actors from Persona 3 Reload did fantastic. See, they were kind of caught in the middle on what to do with the voice actors, because if you bring all the voice actors back to redo their lines, then the remake feels even more superfluous, because, it's just the same characters doing the same thing. But on the other hand, I feel like some of the reasons why they didn't bring the voice actors back was because they're probably more expensive now than they were back then. I mean, infamously, if you're anywhere in the Persona fandom, you'll know that Yukari and Shinjiro's VAs did some work in adult media, and now the protagonist is voicing Spider-Man. So, as you might imagine, price tag went up a bit. And I don't want the same thing to happen to Persona 4. I think that the cast of Persona 4 did an amazing job. A lot of people sometimes bring up the fact that Chie and Teddy were originally voiced by different actors on the PS2, but ever since Persona 4 Golden, they've had their standard VAs in the spin-offs like the Q games and the Arena games. So I really feel like if they're going to do this remake, then they're going to get rid of the old VAs because, again, they're more expensive, and I'm not going to like that. Again, the cast from the new remake of Persona 3, they did great, but it is something to be said that it's not the originals, and I liked the originals. Now, this does give Atlas a bit of a catch-22, because if they bring back the original actors to reprise the roles, then the remake loses some of its purpose for existing. But it's just a personal thing, you know. I associate this voice with Chie, and I don't want a new voice for Chie, you know? Persona 3 Reload is a good remake. It was needed, and it's a good thing. Now, whether or not you think it's the best version, that's more up into the air, and is more down to personal preference. But when I think it comes to objective necessity, Reload was needed. I can boot up Steam right now and play through the entirety of Persona 4 Golden. And I think that's emblematic of why I'm not picking this game up. Persona 4 Golden is my favorite game of all time. I love it so much. I love its characters. I love its story. I genuinely struggle to think of flaws it has other than just the fact it was originally a PS2 game that was remade on a PS Vita. And I don't know if I'm going to pick up the remake because, like, it doesn't have the same necessities that I think made Persona 3 Reload needed, you know? It doesn't have clunky gameplay like Persona 3, you know? You can select what skills your demon inherits. You can choose whether or not you want to date someone. So you can friendzone everyone and get every single social link, or pick a character and go down the romance link if that's what you choose to do. You can control your party members. And yeah, I don't know. Plus, I know this is like teaser trailer footage. This is probably the only area they really had fully complete. Kinda looked a little bit like those Unreal Engine remakes of games, but still, if you're planning on picking up the Persona 4 remake, good on you. I hope it's good, and I hope you enjoy it. For me, personally, I'm gonna stick with Golden. That's just how I swing, you know? Also, they're probably gonna make all the costumes DLC, and that's gonna be fun.